It is time for another one of those rather casual, hopefully helpful videos. You can see I'm not at home. I am actually in Vegas right now, but I promised you guys a video, so that's what I'm doing. This is in order to prep for the exam for this week, for week 6. I went through and I picked out a couple of samples. Thankfully, it's mostly what we've already been talking about. So, yay! All right. So, I am going to do my usual where I share my iPad so I can work stuff out. The first two, I don't really need to actually work anything out, but I figured may as well do it this way. So, actually, nah, I was going to try to do something so I could type it in. All right, so this first type, choose the correct word name for, and here's one of them. If you see this, you have to figure out what you would call it. Now, if you remember, we talked about the different parts. We talked about 100, tens, ones, and then the period, and then tenths, hundredths, thousandths with the THs. So since this is 0.59, this would be 59 hundredths. You have to have the THS at the end. Okay. So now for another one, similar to that, you would have, if you saw, well, see, I can just erase all that. This is similar, but it's going the opposite direction. So this time it is choose the correct one if it says 37 hundredths. So if it says this, you have to know that that means 0.37 because that would be hundredths. Okay. We totally just covered this in class on Saturday. So that's really good. All right. This one is crazy. This one, I am so glad we spent time on this on Saturday. Here we go. We have round the following to the nearest unit, tenth, and hundredth. And you will have to do all of them. The number for this one is 0.8259. So I'm just going to do this. We're going to say unit. We're going to say tenth. And then we are going to say hundredth. So for the unit, that wants to know this one. So unit, if you remember, we have an 8 here. And so if you remember the way we did it, we did 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Right here in the middle. This one goes up, this one goes down. So for the unit, since we have 0.8, 8 is over here. So for the unit, we go up to 1. All right. Now for the tenths, it wants you to decide looking at these two numbers. These are the only two numbers we're looking at. So we want to know from this one, so we have to decide from the 2. The 2 is down here. So that means for our tenths, we are going to do 0.8. Okay, now, trying to pick another color, 100th, this one right here. So we need to know what to do this. So we use this number. Here's the 5. So that means up. So that means 0.83. Okay. So that's the rounding. And that's how you would do this. There will be a few different examples, or I mean, a few different questions like this. Take your time. It is not a race. Take your time. If you want to write it down, if you want to draw this little thing to remind yourself, do it. Okay. All righty. Now, I'm trying not to use up too much time like the last one because, whoo, I just kind of went for a long time on the last one. All right. Now we have change the decimal to a fraction and simplify. Okay. And then it will give you a decimal. So like this, if you have 0.67, that is hundredths. Since you know this is hundredths, this would be the same thing as 67 over 100. And then you just have to figure out if you can simplify it. Guess what? 67 over 100, you can't. We've got 67, which is an odd number, so we can't use 2, 5, or 10 to simplify. Makes it difficult. If you question whether or not you can always just type it into a calculator and try. But trust me, 67 over 100, that's it. This is your answer. Okay. All right. Moving my notes out of the way, because now we're going to do another one of these. I wanted to start with one where you could not simplify it so you don't drive yourself crazy trying to simplify. But I wanted one that you could. So now, if we have 0.55, that is the same thing as 55 over 100. Guess what? Ends in a 5 and ends in a 0. This means we can simplify it with the number 5. So, trying to figure out the best way to say it. If we do 55 divided by 5, 5 goes into 5 one time. Bring that, and then you bring the 5 down. 5 goes into 5 one time. So that means this would be 11. And then I'm going to do 100 divided by 5. 5 can't go into 1, but 5 can go into 10 2 times. 2 times 5 is 10. Bring the 0 down. It cannot go into that, so that's 20. So that means you can simplify it to 11 over 20. There you go. Okay. Just so you know, it's always really weird to do this because there's like nobody to talk to, nobody to respond. So I'm just trying. All right, here's another one. 1.071 plus 0.0017 plus 7 plus 1.007 equals question mark. There's a couple of ways you can do this. Stacking, honestly, probably the easiest. So I'm going to start with these two. I'm going to say 1.071 plus 0.0017. Okay. Aha, doesn't quite match. So I am going to add a 0 there to make them the same. So now 0 plus 7 equals 7. 1 plus 1 equals 2. 7 plus 0 equals 7. 0 plus 0, 0. Put my decimal, 1 plus 0 equals 1. Now I am going to add my 7 plus 7. Well, there's no, I guess I should do it more like this to show you what I'm doing. We are trying to keep them all the same. So plus 7, 0, 0, 0, 0. So now 7 to 7, 0, decimal, 7 plus 1 equals 8. Now we add this number, plus 1.0070. I put the 0 there to make sure we're matching, because we want all of them to have the same number after the decimal so we don't lose anything. So now 7 plus 0 equals 7. 7 plus 2 equals 9. 7 plus 0 equals 7. We still have a 0 here, and now a 9. So this answer should be 9.0797. Now, I am going to double check it on my handy calculator to make sure I did not make any simple mistakes. Because, yeah, wouldn't that be embarrassing? 0017 plus 7 plus 1.007. 90797. Yay! I got it right. Yay. Okay. Taking it down into little bite-sized pieces will help you tremendously. So notice we did this number. Ooh, that's why I hit the wrong thing. We did this number plus this number. That was these two. Then I took the total and I added 7. Then I took that total and I added that last one. If you break it down into bit by bit, it makes it so much more manageable. And if I did any of this too fast and you don't, quite catch it, even if you rewatch it and you have questions, just ask me, send me an email or something. I'll check. All right, now we have 6.807 minus 1.999. Well, we practiced with borrowing, and that's what this is testing you on. So if you remember, you can't take 9 away from 7 because 7 is too small. So, and actually I'm punching this in here real quick to make sure as I do this. Okay, so we need to get a 1 here. We need it to be 17. This is a 0. You can't take anything from 0. So that is going to end up being a 9, and that is going to be a 7. So what we did is we took 1 from the 8, which brought it to 7. We added it to this to be a 10, but then we took 1 away from that, which is how it became a 9, in order to put it here to make that a 17. I know it sounds crazy, but there you go. You also know that I'll do counting on my fingers. When I am subtracting, I find it easier to count up. So I say like 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. That would be 8. So I will put in 8. 9 minus 9, 0. Oh no, look at this. 7 minus 9, we need to borrow again. So I'm going to take 1 from the 6, turn that into a 5, and then give another 1 here. So again, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. That's 8. Don't forget the decimal. Decimal is in exactly the same place. Now 5 minus 1 equals 4. So your answer would be 4.808. All right. So that was testing to make sure you knew and remembered how to do the borrowing. Now this is one we did a whole bunch of. We did a lot of this on Saturday. Remember this? All right, so we are going to do the 3 times 5, 3 times 7, and then the 3 times 4. So 3 times 5 is 15, carry the 1. 3 times 7 is 21 plus 1. So that is 22, carry that 2. And then 3 times 4 is 12 plus 2. So that would be 14. If you want to write it over here so you can remember, I don't know if that would make it more confusing or less, or yeah, I think that'll make it more confusing. I'm just going to stick with this. Now, what I do my dash to remind myself I need to fill in that space. But you can also, like I've said, you can just put a 0 to fill in that space. That's fine too. Now we are going to take this 3, multiply it by 5, 7, and 4. Well, we already know what it's going to be. So I'm just going to rewrite that. I'm going to do the 5, the 2, the 4, and the 1. And then add those. So 5 plus 0, 5. 2 plus 5 equals 7. 4 plus 2 equals 6. 4 plus 1 equals 5, and then 1. And now we have the big trick that we went on and on and on about previously. We have 4.75. That is 2 spaces right there. We have 3.3. That is 1 space. That means we are going to go 1, 2, 3 right there. So our answer would be 15.675. Yeah, so that would be your answer for how to multiply your decimals. All right, there we go. I have one more thing written down that I wanted to cover. All righty, here comes the last one. Change 3/16 to a decimal. Well, this is pretty much the same thing as 3 divided by 16. Yep. Or you could do 3 divided by 16. I would use a calculator. That's what I would do. Because if you type this into your calculator, you will get 0.1875. That is what you would get. If you want to know how you would work it out, I am going to use this down here. If you want to know the proper way to work it out, we would do the 3 divided by 16. Notice that I made that line extra long. And I'm going to use a different color so you could see what happens here. All right. Can 16 go into 3? No, it cannot. So we are going to put a 0. We're going to put a decimal because there are no other digits after here. We're going to add them. So now we're going to put a 0. 16 can go into 30 one time. 1 times 16 equals 16. Now you subtract. So 30 minus 16 equals 14. Well, now we add another 0 and we bring that down. There we go. So now we have to figure out how many times can 16 go into 140. Well, remember how I like to do this thing over here? We have 16 plus 16 equals 32. And then I say plus 16. So plus 16 equals 48. Plus 16 equals 64. Plus 16 equals 80. Plus 16. I'm doing them all, aren't I? 96 plus 16 plus 16 is 112 plus 16 plus 16 equals 128 plus 16. I am almost out of space here, aren't I? 144. All right, so now that's 1, that's 2, that's 3, that's 4, that's 5, that's 6, that's 7, that's 8, and that's 9. So to figure out how many could go into 140, right there. So that would be an 8. So now we put an 8 here. 8 times 16 is 128. We just figured that out over here. So now we subtract. So make that a 10 and make that a 3. So that would be 2 and 1. Well, now we have to do another 0. Bring it down to here. So now how many times can 16 go into 120? It's not going to be 8 because that's 128. So it's going to be 7. So we put the 7. 7 times 16 is 112. And that gives us an 8. Oh, I didn't bring this out far enough for how much I write. And we do another 0, which we bring down and put it there. And look at this. 5 equals 80. That's what we have here. So that would be a 5. 5 times 16 equals 80. Bam. That is how you properly get that number. Like I said, calculator, way faster. But this is the proper way to figure it out. Because if you can just remember that a fraction is the same thing as dividing, that'll get you there. So, yeah, I'm going to erase this because if not, I'm going to forget about it. And then when I tutor tomorrow, I'm going to open it up and my kid's going to go, what? I can't believe it. You're scaring me. So there you go. Ah, I accidentally hit the undo button. All righty. That's all I have for you. I hope it's helpful. If you need more help, if you would like me to explain anything more or slower or something, shoot me a message. Otherwise, I will see you in class on Saturday. Bye.